got the new Natasha Denona Bloom palette and we're going to do swatches, give you guys an eye look, and show you some comparisons. So if you guys are interested, just keep watching. But if this is your first time on my channel, welcome. My name is Karen Harris. I like to film tan girl friendly makeup videos here on YouTube. I do post quite often because I love makeup, especially eyeshadow palettes. So if you want to keep up with my channel, highly recommend subscribing, turning on that bell so you're notified every time I post. And without further blabbering, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm not the one to pay for overnight shipping ever. You guys know I hate paying for shipping, but I did have a store credit at Sephora and I was like, let me just take a little gamble. So my palette arrived and I'm so excited to show it to you guys. Oh my gosh, how embarrassing. I thought I was holding the Bloom palette. That is not the Bloom palette. I'm so sorry. Here is the Bloom palette. So this one just arrived hot off the press, and of course, in true fashion of my life, we had an internet guy scheduled. It all took forever, and now it's like 8:30 and I'm filming a look with this palette. I really wanted to do a first impressions with it, and it actually arrived. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into close-ups and swatches, and I'm so excited to show this palette to y'all. Okay, so this is the Natasha Denona Bloom palette, and it's made in Italy. It retails for $69. It has 15 shades, and the total net weight is 17.75 grams or 0.62 ounces. And it also says this palette has a 24-month shelf life. So it looks like we have creamy mattes and silky mattes, duochromes, multichromes, and metallics, as well as sparkling foil shadows, and there's instructions on how to use all of them in this box. So just something to keep in mind, I suppose. It says on the Natasha Denona website that this palette captures the essence of blooming flowers and the radiance of sunny days. So I'm just going to read the shade descriptions to you guys while I'm flashing my swatches. I will say I was less than impressed by how this palette swatched, so hopefully it performs on the eyes a lot better than it's swatched. I've definitely had experiences with palettes where they perform a lot better than they swatch, so that's something to keep in mind. So the first shade is Fluorescence, and this is a metallic medium vivid tangerine. Bark is a creamy matte. This is a matte medium dark gingerbread brown. It's a really pretty shade. Keen is another creamy matte shadow. This is a light medium nude tangerine. Ren is a matte medium coral pink. Fleur is a duochrome light pink with icy ivory shifts. Crisp is a sparkling foil duochrome coral with gold. And then Lush is a sparkling foil light nude apricot. Brick is a matte medium bright terracotta. Rue, metallic medium light burgundy. Floss is a matte medium vintage rose. Petal is a silky matte light salmon. Ember, sparkling foil medium brick. Robin, silky matte medium dusty coral. Clover is a matte dark vivid burgundy, and Equinox is a sparkling foil duochrome peach with turquoise blue shifts. Okay, so I'm going to sound like a broken record, but really I was not impressed with how these shadows swatched at all. They honestly felt very mediocre, and I'm really apprehensive. On the plus side though, you really can't tell, and something that really put this into perspective for me is the new Charlotte Tilbury palettes retail for $60, and I definitely feel like the Natasha Denona Media Bloom palette is definitely coming in at a reasonable price compared to that. So that's just my 2 cents on that right off the bat. But I'm very keen to try this out on my eyes. I will say a lot of the peachy shades are similar-ish, but of course the undertones are different. So that's something to keep in mind. I definitely want to create 2 looks with this palette, so we'll see how it goes. Clover, it's such a pretty rosy mauve shade. I was thinking I was going to go warm tones, but now I'm wondering if I should go more on the mauve rosy side of this palette because there are some options for sure. This is such a pretty color. And I'm going to take the shade Ren, which is another kind of pinky shade that's a lighter tone, and just kind of use that on the edge of the crease. But the main crease shade is the shade called Clover, and I'm just blending that in. So I'm basically just going in with Ren and Clover Ren is going in on more of the outer part of the crease, and then Clover is going right into the socket area of my eye. Okay, having lots of fun blending that. So for the lid shade on this look, I'm going to go into Equinox because that's like the duochrome kind of interesting shade they make it sound like. So I don't know, this just didn't swatch that great, so I'm not sure how much pigmentation I can expect from it. I just wanted to try it out with my finger. Not super pretty. It has a blue shift to it, but it's definitely not something that's gonna blow your mind if you're used to indie duochromes or multi-chromes or trio chromes. But I use this old Tarte brush I have, and it has quite a bit of texture on it, so hopefully it picks it up. And I just want to apply it precisely onto the lid. It's cute, but it's just so soft. Which I feel like, honestly, for some people, this is going to be an amazing everyday palette. I personally don't believe in saying like, oh, this is a great everyday palette, but I know that, you know, some people are just more comfortable wearing shades like this to like work and stuff, and I totally get it. I can really see this being a great option for people that are comfortable with shades like this. I feel like you can do something really not super dramatic, but still like dramatic enough for an everyday work look. But I can also see somebody throwing on just like one simple shadow and running out the door with this palette, so definitely have options. I hope this looks really blended because it looks blended, but I also feel like, is it blended or am I just like delusional at this point at night? But it's pretty. It's just not like blowing my mind. You know what I mean? So I'm going to start off with the shade Brick, which is like my kind of color. It's a beautiful mid-tone tangerine shade, and I love colors like this. I don't know if I've said that like a million times this month because I've been playing with the Fantasy Cosmetica Monk palette, and I just played with the I Love Coffee palette from Clarity Cosmetics. So I've been playing with some great neutral palettes from indie brands in 2025. I feel like I've had really good luck. So this is like my kind of neutral shade. I would even wear this shade as a lip color. It's just so pretty. So yeah, beautiful matte eyeshadow, and it's blending really nicely all over the lid and the crease. And then I'm going to go back into the shade Bark, which is the shade I was using on my outer corner on this eye. Just going to pick that up, and I'm just going to plop that on the outer corner as well. That shade is deepening it up, but it's not really sticking to my lid that great, but we'll see how it goes. And then I'm going to take the shade called Fluorescence, the first shade in the palette, and we're going to use that on the lid. So I'm going for a typical peachy eye look on this side. We'll see how this shade performs when I try to foil it onto the lid. I just posted my new makeup releases video today, and I saw Milk Makeup is on the Ulta website. It's so wild to see that happen. The new Milk Makeup foundation is on the Ulta website, so just a little PSA in case you hadn't noticed and you've been wanting to pick up some Milk Makeup with your Ulta points. Your chance is now. That tangerine metallic shade, I feel like foiled really nicely on my lid. That's definitely more of a traditional metallic shadow compared to the shade Equinox, so definitely worked better on my lid than the first metallic shade I used. I will say Bark is definitely a really light, airy fairy matte, so I feel like I'm having a hard time building it up, but I bet once everything's done it'll look like I want it to look, but just the effect when I see it in the mirror, I'm like, is it even there? I can hardly tell. Okay, so I'm going to throw on some brown eyeliner and do the lower lash line quick on both of these eye looks. Okay, so I'm going to just take this little Sigma brush, which is the E27, and I'm just going to run that shade Bark on the lower lash line on both of these eye looks, I think. Okay, so yeah, I basically ended up running that shade Bark along the outer corner for both eye looks. And then for inner corner, I'm just going to use Crisp on both of these eye looks. I'm just using the Kaleidos pencil brush, picking up a hefty amount, giving it a nice spray, and then I'm just going to bring it in on the inner corner. That is a really pretty duochrome. It looks like a white gold, but it definitely has like a beautiful peachy shift to it, and I really feel like it's going to look beautiful, especially on this eye. So I'm just trying to build that up because I feel like I'm always so like delicate on the inner corners, and I'm just like, let me just put on a good amount of product there so it really pops, you know? So I'm definitely flavoring this eye look. I know it looks really basic, but I just really like this one so much better. Okay, before I go, I want to test out this Say blush because I put it in my order with the Natasha Denona palette because this was also a app exclusive on the Sephora website yesterday. And you guys know I've never met a blush I didn't like, and I really like the look of these. So I was extremely curious, and I got the shade Chow. This is the Super Suede Radiant Blush Powder from Say Beauty, and it is made in Italy. 3 grams of product, or 0.10 ounces. And yeah, I just really wanted to try one shade, so I figured I'd grab this shade because I thought it looked very interesting. So let me go ahead and throw this on my cheeks while we're all here so you can see how it kind of goes on to my face. If it blends and stuff, I'll let you guys know. I believe this retails for $28, so we'll see if it was worth the $28. Okay, so I don't want to sound like a snob, but I will say this packaging doesn't feel that fancy. It feels like very cheap plastic, if I'm being honest with you guys. I don't feel like $28 is the most expensive blush in the world, but I also still feel like this is probably the cheapest packaging I've ever felt from any Say product that I've owned. That is a beautiful blush. I love this shade, which I honestly kind of knew I was going to. And like, look at that sheen it's giving. It's giving a really beautiful sheen to my cheeks. It's giving mocha mousse, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of here for it. I definitely feel like I did a good job picking out the shade that I knew was going to be one that I was truly interested in. And I definitely feel like if I had a tree full of money, I would probably buy more shades from this formula because it's absolutely beautiful. And just like a perfect summery blush. It's not a overly glowy blush, but it definitely makes my skin come alive. And I really hope they do some kind of baked highlighter like this because it's definitely winning me over, I'm not gonna lie. So I do have a highlighter and stuff I want to put on, so I'm gonna finish up this makeup look and I'll be right back to show you guys how these two eye looks look with mascara and stuff, and give you guys some first impression thoughts on the new Natasha Denona Bloom palette. Okay friends, so here is the finished look. I totally realized when I was applying the blush that I forgot to zoom you guys in, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. Hopefully you could still see what I was doing on my eyes, but I will do at least one more look with this palette, either in a reel or in a video or something. I have a feeling this palette's definitely going to end up in a Shop My Stash because it's a great everyday palette for me as well. So let's talk about what is on my face today in case you guys are a little bit curious. So I'm wearing the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint. This is in the shade 9. I just want to try and use some of the foundations I've loved a little less last year, a little more this year, so that's the one I wore today. And then I'm wearing the Drugstore Essence Keep Me Covered Concealer. I think this is a really great concealer, and I think it's like under $5, so if you're rolling on a budget, you might want to check this one out. I am also wearing my Sigma color corrector. And then for my bronzer today, we've got a drugstore combo. I reach for this one quite often. I really like this Physicians Formula Butter Glow Liquid Bronzer, so I'm wearing this as my cream bronzer, and then I topped it with the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. This is in the shade Deep, and it's really not that deep, but it's a little bit deeper than my skin tone, so it's honestly perfect for me, and so that's what I have on today. I'm wearing my Charlotte Tilbury powder. And then for lip gloss, I went a little lazy girl, but I've been loving these. So this is the Fresh Kiss Glossy Lip Balm from ColourPop, and this is the shade Caramel Latte. These are so pretty. I was wearing Wildberry in my new makeup releases video that I posted, and now this is another shade. I kind of want to get the deep brown shade too, but these are hydrating, they're glossy, they're so comfortable, and I really like the packaging too. So I'm thoroughly enjoying these, and ColourPop did send me those shades, so super duper awesome. Love that so much. And last but certainly not least, for highlighter, I'm wearing the Natasha Denona highlighter in the shade Medium. These came out around April last year. I remember because I'm pretty sure I ordered this while I was at Creators and Friends in New Orleans, and so I thought it would be fun to pop this on. It's a beautiful glowy highlighter, kind of has the consistency of a Super Shock highlighter from ColourPop, except of course the price tag is higher, so keep that in mind, but it is beautiful. And then of course, let's talk about this blush really quick. I definitely feel like I have every kind of blush I can ever imagine or want, but I still have a hard time saying no, so I was very curious about this one, and I just bought one shade. I think they have 6 or 7 shades, and I just really gravitate towards these brown bronzy blushes, so I had to grab the shade Chow. I will link this down below for you guys in case you're interested in shopping through my affiliate links. It really helps me out. This is so beautiful. I love this color, and I feel like if I didn't have a million shades like this, I would probably reach for this every day. It's super duper pretty. That being said, I'm pretty sure I had a Milani blush very similar to this tone in my collection. Now, Milani, of course, has great baked blushes at a drugstore price, so something to keep in mind. This packaging is definitely very cheap feeling in my humble opinion, but of course, this isn't the most expensive blush they sell at Sephora either, but I just feel like it doesn't feel like very good quality. So if you also picked up one of these Say blushes because you were curious, let me know what you think of the packaging down below. I'm just a little bit curious to hear your guys' thoughts. So now that we've talked about what is on my face, let's go ahead and talk about the Bloom palette. And I just want to show you guys some comparisons because I did post about this palette on my Instagram and I did have people asking me questions. So let's go ahead and just do some quick side-by-side comparisons with some of the other palettes in my Natasha Denona collection. So I think the first comparison is with I Need a Warm. I had quite a few people DMing me asking if this was similar, and I would probably say I don't think so. The thing is, all of these palettes are different enough that you could definitely say they're similar, but you could also definitely make the case for having both of these palettes. So I don't even know what to tell you guys because they are very close, and if you see how many Natasha Denona palettes I have, it would make sense to skip this one, but I'm not going to do that because I want to collect them all. I'm like Pokemon, right? So yeah, not exactly similar. Definitely a more peachy undertone with the Bloom palette where this one feels more neutrally. But yeah, it's like so close, and if you have enough Natasha Denona palettes, you could definitely get the look that I have on my eyes today with any of these other ones. Now, of course, I wanted to see it next to the bronze palette because I feel like the bronze palette is still one of my go-to neutral palettes from Natasha Denona. So here is a side-by-side of these two. So we've got the bronze on top and the Bloom palette on the bottom. So yeah, I do wish the Bloom palette had like a bright red. I think that would have really set it apart. This brick shade is a beautiful tangerine brown kind of color, but I think since the Bloom blush palette has that beautiful red shade, they could have definitely snuck one in there. But as you can see, I feel like the palettes kind of speak for themselves. I don't even know what to say. It's like, yeah, they're not different, but they kind of are. It's like that scene in Devil Wears Prada when Meryl Streep like rips into Andy about cerulean blue. Like she's like, oh, it's just a blue, and it's like, no, it's a cerulean blue, and it was specifically picked out by the people in this room, and it got filtered through the designer brands and the department stores, and then you fished it out of Walmart or something like that. And like that's how I feel when I look at these things, and I'm like, they're so different. It's like, are they though? So this is the golden palette next to the bloom palette. These are quite different, of course. And then I think one that I think a lot of people probably have but also don't have because of how expensive this palette is the original OG neutral palette from Natasha Denona, the Biba palette. I definitely didn't want to buy the Biba palette, but I think I ended up getting it because I had a Sephora coupon. So I think the Biba is still more of a true neutral, and the Bloom is definitely a true peachy palette. Now, before I compare this to some of the other cooler tone Natasha Denona palettes in my collection, I just wanted to show it to you guys next to the Corta Rosa palette. The Corta Rosa palette is one that really got me in love with Sigma, and I still remember seeing people get this palette in PR and being like, oh my gosh, I want that palette so bad. And it's such a stunning palette. I love the Corta Rosa so much that I actually put the 7-pan version of it in my favorite set that I have with Sigma Beauty. So shout out to the Corta Rosa palette for still being relevant in 2025. It is quite old, but yeah, this is a gorgeous palette, and I feel like the Corta Rosa does have like a deeper brown, which would have been nice. Like this shade is dark, but I don't feel like it's dark enough. It could have been a little bit deeper, but yeah, the Corta Rosa just has a little bit more as far as interesting color combos. Like everything's kind of laid out in a quad too, and I'm sure a lot of you have the Corta Rosa, so if you have it and you're on a low buy or a no buy this year, definitely fish this back out if you're craving this palette. I feel like you will be okay if you just reach for your Corta Rosa. Okay, next I'm just going to do some comparisons to some other neutral palettes from Natasha Denona that I don't really find similar at all. So this is the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. Definitely not a favorite of mine, but I know it's a lot of people's favorite because it's like her cool tone palette. I can't believe I have that. And then this is the I Need a Nude. Definitely just like such a boring palette. It almost looks gray next to the Bloom palette, so there's that. Definitely more geared to my complexion, I think the Bloom palette is. And then this is the Sunrise palette. I doubt any of you probably still have this one in your collection, but there's the Sunrise. And then last but certainly not least, I grabbed the Zendo palette because this is like a half peach, half kind of teal palette. So I don't know, y'all. It's so crazy because it is a beautiful palette. Don't get me wrong. I really like the two looks. I really like how this one turned out. But is it gonna be something super unique in your collection that you absolutely must have and need to like go into credit card debt or, you know, sell your kidney on the black market to attain? I don't think so. I think you could definitely skip this if you're trying to be more intentional with your makeup purchases this year, because you probably have something very similar to it, or you can dupe the vibes with your existing Natasha Denona collection. I will say the packaging is absolutely stunning. I saw she was like sitting there painting the watercolor for the front of this package, so I thought that was really neat and interesting. And I do think this palette is beautiful, don't get me wrong. I thought the shimmers were really soft and just very like ethereal, and the mattes were beautiful as well. I do feel like I prefer some of her other palettes when it comes to the shimmers. I don't feel like they were that sparkly or anything extra special, but I'll definitely play with them some more and keep you guys updated. So my overall conclusion is, for $69, it's not the worst palette ever. I don't know that any of you need it, because like sometimes I'll try a palette and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this palette is totally badass. Like, I hope people get it because it's so good and they're really going to enjoy the looks they create with it. But this one, I feel like you could go either way. Like, you could get it and you'll probably be happy, and if you don't get it, you probably will forget about it in the next week or so, because there'll be a newer, shinier, brighter palette to come along. So those are all my thoughts, my first impressions. I hope this video was helpful. As always, I will link as many of these products as I can in my description box and also through YouTube Shop. So if you use my links to shop, it really helps me out. Of course, don't shop if you don't need to, but if you are shopping, use a link. It's a free way to help me out. It doesn't cost you any extra, and I do make a commission on those as well. I don't know what's going on with Natasha Denona and her affiliate codes. I tried to use an affiliate code on her website and it wasn't working for me, so I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if it helps to shop through her links. I had people tell me that my link wasn't working. I don't know. Okay, I just shared it and I'll share it again. But if you're not able to use my link to shop on the Natasha Denona website, that's totally fine. I just wanted to put that PSA in here because I felt bad because people were DMing me and putting it in my comment section, and I was like, it's okay, like, it's not a big deal. I just wanted to share it because it was up for pre-sale on her website on Sunday. Anyway, that's way too much information about things that nobody else cares about except probably YouTubers. Don't forget to check out my new makeup releases video if you guys are interested. I'll pop it on the screen here for you guys to check out. I just posted that this morning. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye, friends!